Hey there, listeners of Illusion. We want to do a special episode about what Nightmare means to the fans. With that in mind, we decided to put together a competition. All you have to do to be in with a chance of winning is to send us a voice recording telling us some of your fondest memories of the show and what it means to you. You can either send your recordings by email to podcast@nightmarepod.co.uk using the subject Nightmare Memories, or you can send us a voice message through our Spotify page. Please note that whilst we'll accept recordings of any length by email, Spotify voice messages are limited to 1 minute long. We'll pick our favourites and play them on the podcast, and one entry chosen at random will win the grand prize. A complete set of the official Nightmare Choose Your Own Adventure books by Dave Morris, including the very rare Lord Fears Domain, a physical copy of Peter Pulsford's unofficial book Nightmare Live, The File of Freedom, a book containing copies of the first 9 issues of The Eye Shield thanks to Paul McIntosh for granting us permission, the Nightmare Live Handbook, a limited edition book given only to backers of the original Nightmare Live Kickstarter campaign. And to top it off, we'll be sending you a signed photo of Nightmare actress Natasha Pope. The closing date for the competition is August the 31st. Any entries received after that will not be eligible to win but may still be used in the podcast. Please be aware that the Dave Morris books have been sourced from various second-hand sellers, and whilst they're all complete, there's a certain amount of wear and tear. Quite frankly, the fact we managed to get a copy of Lord Fear's Domain that didn't already have the puzzles filled in is nothing short of amazing. We look forward to hearing from you, and good luck!
We're going to get adverts on everything in the end, aren't we?
Yeah.
You can have funeral hearses with in this week's Sun and things like that written on the side of it. Ugh.
Which is a good segue to tell you this episode is sponsored by Raid Shadow. No.
Oh.
Them again.
Welcome, listeners of Illusions of Temporal Discussion, the episode-by-episode Nightmare retrospective podcast. I'm Martin Harder, and I am carrying no objects, but thankfully, I also don't have the eye shield.
And I'm Martin O'Doney, and I can't hear you, so I'll see you when I get there. Obscure reference to something that happens in the episode later.
And joining us today, we have Nightmare fan and Dunselm players voice actor Andy Marshall.
Hello there. Thank you very much for having me.
So, Andy, this is the point where we usually ask what Nightmare means to you.
Nightmare was my first introduction to most likely interactive storytelling and point-and-click adventure games in general. It was from seeing Nightmare in my formative years back in 92, 93, that was. I came in season 6. First memory with those, quite frankly, terrifying Descender thingamajiggies. And from there, it's a sidestep to playing Myst on my parents' Mac, and haven't looked back since.
It always puzzled me that Nightmare never actually got a point-and-click adventure game. They got one of those dungeon crawler type things for the Amiga, didn't they?
Yes, and I seem to recall there was a microcomputer one. There's, I think it was either the Commodore 64. It was one of those kind of like weird parser ones that quite frankly was, abysmal. But yeah, no, I always wondered why it didn't make the jump to it. Feels like the perfect format for something in the old, certainly in the old Sierra vein. They would have made quite a lot of got a lot of mileage out of the many crazy deaths they could have come up with. That would have felt a natural fit.
One of the main things I remember about the micro game was that it was one of the first games I saw that actually had a representation of a naked woman.
Oh,
Don't know if that says more about the game than it says about you, Mr. H. But, the fact that you've authorised yourself to say that means that this week anything goes. We're looking at Series 4, Episode 4. What was happening at the time?
Well, it was originally broadcast on CITV on September the 28th, 1990. Maria McKee takes pole position in the music charts with Show Me Heaven, made popular by the Tom Cruise movie Days of Thunder. And did you see what I did there? Pole position, Days of Thunder.
No. And what was number one movie in the box office that week, Mr. H?
Well, it wasn't Days of Thunder. But our number one movie this week was Alan J. Pakula's political thriller Presumed Innocent, starring Harrison Ford and Brian Dennehy.
And Greta Skarkey.
It's gonna be so good. Carolyn Paulhamus was murdered last night. Some creep got into her place somehow and strangled her.
It looks like she was raped.
Rusty, I want you to handle this case personally. You're the only one around here I can trust. Just catch me a bad guy.
You're in charge of this investigation. There are 150 lawyers down there. They couldn't find one who didn't sleep with her.
Find out which of the creeps she put away is out on parole.
She's dead, and you're still obsessing.
You were in Carolyn's apartment the night she was killed. We've got the fingerprint results. There's a call from your house to hers that night.
This is absurd.
Go ahead, play cool. I know. You killed her. You're the guy.
It is actually a pretty decent film. I'd say it's more of a legal thriller than a political thriller, to be honest. Greta Skarki was at the absolute height of her beauty at this point. So even if the film had actually been rubbish, it would still have been worth watching.
Temporal Discussion. Bringing you the latest news from 1990.
So in the news today, Marvin Gaye got his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame on this day. But other than that, there wasn't really a great deal going on. September the 29th, though, the National Cathedral in Washington, D.C. was finished, and the United Nations World Summit for Children began. As part of the summit, the then largest group of leaders of state and government agreed to set objectives to enhance children's well-being globally by the year 2000.
It was the first time a UN conference had established such a wide-ranging agenda for objectives in human rights, education, nutrition, and health. But did they achieve any of them?
No.
Correct.
What were we doing whilst they tried to do that? We were dropping kids off cliffs and slicing them up with circular saws.
Leading the way, as it were.
Trailblazers, the British way.
And now time turns, recording like burns. Time out is gone, the podcast is on.
Greetings. And now for those who need a little adventure in their lives. Time out is gone, the quest is on. Which reminds me, Pickle, just who are the current victims?
Challengers in quest, Harry, Martin, and James. Not to mention their Dungeoneer, Alastair Gill. All are from Suffolk. Time in quest, 14 minutes. Level achieved, level 1. Carrying no objects. But they have the eye shield, Master.
Alastair and friends are the second team of the series. They're questing for the shield. We find them in a clearing within the Forest of Dun, populated by a few gnarled tree trunks. It looks like the setting for a secondary school production of A Midsummer Night's Dream. If you cast your mind back to the previous episode, you'll remember Brother Mace showing the team the location of an elf path behind the trunk on the left, and the team guide Alastair down said path.
This again underlines the fact that all that running around stumps that Team 1 had to do in this clearing was totally unnecessary. They could have just walked straight behind that tree stump and they'd have gone anyway.
Yeah, so remember the fun they had in the previous team, that crazy circuit figure of 8. Early test of coordination for that. I'm not quite sure how they would have managed had they progressed much further. But you introduce a mechanic to speed up getting out of rooms quicker by way of the eye shield, and then you have them sort of like battle around with some absurd foliage figure of 8 nonsense. It's crazy.
Maybe they just need to fill some extra time for the episode.
Could be. Anyway, they disappear and they emerge in Oakley's Glen.
Where am I? Alastair, you're in a small clearing of trees. There's a tree stump to your left, and it looks like there's some items on it.
Okay, Alastair, we'd like to take... Oh, look, there's aniseed, there's a key, there's some bread, and it looks like a bar of gold.
Right, I can't hear you. I'll see it when we get up there.
Okay, it's slightly behind you.
The team talk over themselves whilst describing the items, which apparently causes Alastair not to hear them properly. This does not bode well for the team's future in the dungeon. If they're already talking over each other here, what are they going to be like with the face of an actual threat? The bread, after only a very short eternity, gets knapsacked, causing Oakley to materialise.
Watch out.
Watch out. There's a tree.
There's a face turned up.
There's a face on the tree.
Warning, team, I think you're going to have to earn your looting here.
Stand still, little thief.
Yes. Do as you're told for now, Alastair, for this is Oakley, and in this place he has the power to do more than just threaten.
This really does feel like we've gone back to season 1 with all the repetition in location so far. And even Oakley is saying the same crap he did on the previous quest, even if Cliff Norgate does an impressive job ad-libbing the odd change of word order here and there. It feels like the first meetings with the Wall Monsters again. And we even get the riddle contest rules brought back for this one. Why? Why? Facepalm.
We're 4 series in.
They're pretty much about to get rid of the riddle contests after this anyway. That's the worst thing about it.
Is it me? There doesn't seem to be any kind of additional benefit from getting all 3 of them right anymore. We lose the whole I command you mechanic. So unless you absolutely totally fail and get none right, then the outcome's pretty much preordained.
Pretty much the same as with the Door Monsters. Although there is the idea that 1 riddle's enough on level 1, 2 is enough on level 2, and need all 3 on level 3. I've never seen any conclusive evidence that that's true.
Yeah, I must admit, I do quite like the design of this one. I was never really sold on the hand puppet look of season 1, so admittedly it's a bit clutch cargo twinned with Terry Gilliam, but it's a whole occasional sort of dart to the right as well.
Every so often he glances at the screen as though he's a bit nervous about being spied on.
Yeah, he's either mugging to the audience or he's checking the script.
Yeah.
The hearing thing with Alastair not being able to hear the team, that happens a couple of times, doesn't it? I'm wondering if there was a problem with his earpiece.
He's a rather ratty Dungeoneer, is Alastair, if you actually listen to him throughout the episode.
He's got a bit of an attitude, hasn't he?
I do think his team are giving him a reason to be.
Yeah.
But, anyway, what are the oldest living things in the world? Because there's something very self-referential all the time about Oakley's riddles, you immediately know the answer, even if you don't have any education on trees at all.
Define immediately, because it takes this lot bloody ages.
Well, I'm talking about proper people.
As opposed to, these counterfeit human beings that are doing it.
Yeah, these meanderers here.
These are children, they're not human beings.
They do eventually say trees. Trope accepted. And I do love the way Norgate ad-libs at long last.
Andy, do you want to tell us a little bit about the oldest trees in the world?
The oldest tree in the world was a great basin bristlecone pine known as Prometheus, quite grandly enough, located in Wheeler Park, Nevada, USA, over 4,900 years old when it was cut down by Professor Donald Russ Curry in 1964.
What a vandal! That reminds me of the people who decided to knock down all the old buildings in Exeter after the war.
On a scale of 1 to, wiping all of William Hartnell and Patrick Troughton's Doctor Who episodes.
From what I gather, he actually cut it down to find out how old it actually was.
Well aware that it was never going to get any older, basically.
The oldest current living tree, it's crazy enough, another bristlecone pine, built to last these lots, by the name of Methuselah, located in White Mountains, California, USA. Tree is 4,854 years old, but unconfirmed estimations show that a Patagonian cypress tree by the name of I'm going to mangle this, Aleche millenario, located in Chile, maybe even older than either Methuselah or Prometheus. The estimates are correct, then Aleche millenario is 5,484 years old.
How can you find out how old a tree is? By counting the rings on its trunks, of course.
I could just imagine this guy, this Donald Russ Curry, just cutting the tree down and going, 1, 2.
Real professional. Correct title for this method that Donald Russ Curry was so ruthlessly pursuing, and when I say ruthlessly, I really mean it, is Dendochronology. Some people actually think it's an old wives' tale, but no, it is 100% reliable scientifically, because each tree ring is a new generation of cells and represents an exact full cycle of the 4 seasons. So it's a response to the 4 seasons. Immense amounts of information about the Earth's pre-human past have been gleaned, especially over the last 100 years, from tree tree ring data. It tells us a lot about what the climate was like and how it's shifted. It even plays a very influential role in the study of climate change up to today, including it reveals that past causes of climate change were different to present causes of climate change, which is the thing that climate change deniers keep on trying to push aside.
All right, thank you, Greta.
I'll take that as a compliment, thank you.
Anyone who actually bodies Andrew Tate as epically as she does deserves all the praise in the world.
This is also true. Artistic trees are, so name the connection between trees and artist drawings. Now, I am a little bit surprised that Oakley would ask a question so thoroughly insensitive to his own species, given we know exactly what the answer is and how it's achieved. The answer is, of course, the paper, which is made by chopping the trees down and extracting the wood and mashing it up and mulching it in all sorts of disgusting ways that are really disrespectful to the wood and to the poor creature that was destroyed by it. And Oakley seems to be boasting about it.
But also the pencils are made out of wood.
They are, but the critical material will be the graphites.
Yeah, no, it does seem a bit insensitive, a question. It's the equivalent of a human asking a question, what's the optimum temperature for a human leg to be cooked at?
Yeah.
So anyway, 3 is the score. Oakley tells the team that Aniseed will take them off the team's trail. He wishes Alastair good fortune in Greenwood before becoming inanimate again. Alastair takes the aniseed and the key before the team guide him towards the portal.
They're talking over each other way too much again. They're just a bit too excitable, and it means that it leaves them really badly
Because of course we never
organised.
talk over each other, do we, ever?
No, not at all.
Not at all. No, never talk over each other at all.
It's almost like a
really
mental
good. I'm always
between us
waiting
that
for him to finish
where I know
talking,
when you're going to finish speaking, and you know when I'm going to finish speaking.
Right, Alastair, I think we should take the aniseed.
Turn around,
Definitely.
Alastair.
Have you got the bread?
Yeah.
We'll take the aniseed as well.
And what else is there?
Didn't he say aniseeds would lead us off their trail?
No, he said take them off our trail.
It'll probably protect us or something like that.
Should we take the key?
No, take the
key and the aniseed.
He's taking
the bread.
No, leave the gold.
Leave the gold.
You think we should?
I think we should take the aniseed.
Yeah, we've got the young key and the aniseed.
All right, we've got everything. Okay.
Has
Would
he
you
got the
turn
key?
90 degrees to your right?
What? Have you got the key, Alastair?
Yeah.
Good.
Right.
Right, turn
90 degrees to your right. Okay. Side steps to your right.
We'll go through that little clinic.
Okay, stop.
Yeah,
walk forward.
Walk forward.
Now hold up the eye shield.
Eye shield,
the eye
Alastair.
shield. There appears to be a box. Okay, we're shooting through the eye of the shield still. You appear to be, it looks like the gate of a castle. It looks like that.
Stop, Alastair.
I don't understand, Master. Where are we?
It looks like
Well, this may be a different route, but I think we know the destination. This is the Castle of Doom.
What follows here is an unnecessarily long passive path, which is clearly just kind of put in to pad out the episode. We'll skip over it.
Well, what I will say, though, is at least this quest has finally gone somewhere slightly different to the first one.
How come every time I say we'll skip over this, you've got something to say about it?
Because I want to you off. So you can notice the way the advisors don't seem to realise they're watching a recording here, by the way. They give Alastair instructions to sidestep while the eye shield is guiding them. That either says a huge amount for their ability to immerse themselves in the game, or nothing at all about their ability to think. And they're still talking over each other too much, often to say much the same things.
In my later years, I've actually grown a bit more of an appreciation for the eye shield sequences. I like the effort to make things just the location geography a little bit more coherent in terms of getting from A to B. I found that the first few seasons, they kind of suffers a bit from the old infocom text adventure problem, the Zork problem, where if you actually try to map out the rooms into any kind of coherent geography, it just goes, well, it's impossible. It's impossible geography, essentially.
Well, yeah, the whole idea is that the rooms get moved around inside the castle. It does look weird sometimes when you step through a tiny little square door in a courtyard and come out the other side through a gigantic archway that towers above your head.
My main experience with the Infocom text adventures is the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. So
yes,
the idea of any coherent kind of geography is just over my head.
Well, the improbability drive that you have to use to get to the end of the game sort of makes that physically impossible. You can't really be done. You're changing the past, and you keep on heading to different places all over the galaxy.
That bloody game. There is one small thing that you have to do at the beginning of the game, and it's really easy to skip it. And then you can save your game as you go along. But if you didn't do that one thing right at the bloody end of the game.
It's to do with the dog. Everybody has a clue, but I won't say any more than that. Don't just ignore the dog in the lane.
Douglas Adams said to have a very unique perspective on game design. He felt almost as if his game should be actively fighting the player at every point.
That's the thing with the Babelfish, when you really start feeling like you have to do more and more and more to get hold of the Babelfish. And every time you do that, this game is fighting me.
Yeah, it's a 14-step puzzle that you have 13 opportunities to get right before it locks you out into an unwinnable state.
Losing status. But the thing about Hitchhiker is the losing status a lot of the time, you don't actually realise you're in losing status. You can end up wandering around the Heart of Gold for ages and ages, unable to advance anything.
Just to explain to our listeners how difficult that Babelfish puzzle is, Infocom offered prizes of T-shirts saying, "I got the Babelfish," to people who could prove that they'd done it right.
Well, obviously, I've missed out on a shirt then because I did it.
So you're in
on the pathway. There's a building ahead of you. There's someone sleeping against some sort of tree or pillar this side of the castle.
I can't hear you. It looks like the building's a chapel ahead of you.
Yeah,
you're in an archway,
and there's somebody sleeping up against a kind of tree.
It's leaning against the archway.
I actually rather like this scene for one reason and one reason only. The purple whitewash has not been applied to this scene. Alastair clearly has a hearing problem. Advisors are actually speaking quite loudly enough, but he keeps saying he can't hear them. Jason, Carl, and Anthony Haig both mentioned to us that the earpiece under the helmet was really designed for adults. So maybe Alastair is just too small for it to rest in his ear correctly. Fatilla is asleep on duty, and Alastair ventures nearer.
Stop.
Oh, who goes there?
It's a guard, Alastair.
It looks like some kind of...
It's one of them, horny dunga thingies. Well, don't you try anything funny with me, young thingy, me lad, because no one gets past Fatilla, the honey's on guard. You try anything clever, and I will blip you, and then maybe I will blop you.
Horny dunga thingies is not the biggest double entendre of the season, but it's definitely the most recurrent.
Yeah.
I think most of the good stuff about it actually is stuff that is ad-libbed by Michael Kewell rather than the way it's written.
Michael Kewell is my favourite actor, I think, of the entire run. Brother Mace is my favourite character. I grew up reading Asterix. I have a soft spot for, appalling Latin puns.
Do we think Fatilla is actually another racial caricature? That ludicrous moustache and everything. Is there an element of sort of Middle East caricaturing?
Possibly, but he always struck me as more of like just a general greasy degenerate.
Okay, fair enough.
Apologies to all greasy degenerates.
It's just something that occurs to me occasionally when I'm looking at him, that the preposterous moustache and the very narrowed eyes, you do have to think, are they actually caricaturing a Mongol for real there? It's just a thought that occasionally occurs to me.
It's a good point I hadn't really thought of.
Now then, give us what you've got, or get out of it.
Now, I see you've encountered sophisticated opposition. Now, the problem here is getting past at the smallest possible cost. I suggest the art of deception might be employed here.
Treguard starts giving the team a bit of advice.
He is getting proper narked to them talking over him.
Yeah, I think he's a little bit,
Narked and on the way to Mardy, even.
Oh, that is an escalation. I suppose that's the bit of a challenge that Hugo must have had. He had his cues when the advisors had described the room and said, you're waiting for the bit to do like his bit or his banter, and he obviously had had something scripted after Michael made his appearance. So you can't really anticipate, when the advisors are going to put their oar in.
This is true. What I would say is it's pretty stupid of the advisor to put his oar in at that point when Trey Guide has actually already started speaking.
We had a couple.
It's really irritating when you start speaking and then somebody just cuts in on you like that. It's really thoughtless and rude.
Yeah, we had it a couple.
Wouldn't you agree?
This user has been put on mute.
I knew that was coming.
Okay, so I've just muted Mr. Adoni.
Oh, there's brutally hilarious.
This user has been unmuted.
That's fair enough. I'll let you live.
This is pretty much.
So, as I was saying, it's really, really irritating when people interrupt you like.
This user has been put on mute.
So this is pretty much how every podcast goes. We talk for like an hour and we get 15 minutes of usable footage.
I had a chance to catch up a bit on a few of episodes. Now I was actually listening to David Newton's episode, and it's the most baffling thing because I came across his stuff. He was doing a Let's Riff on Mist Online that he was doing. He was doing Uru Live, which I've been writing for the last year and a bit. He uses this season's status bar for putting all his videos. So when I saw that, I had a proper sort of like Leo moment. It was like, when I commented on it, he actually mentioned in his YouTube comment this podcast. It's like, it doesn't matter how obscure my interests are, they somehow manage to coalesce in the most weirdest and strangest of ways. I actually feel quite
This user has been unmuted.
It's the illusion of randomness.
Yes, I like the ICO sequence. I feel like the outside sequences have not aged the best. They look like a mid-90s full motion video thing you'd feel on like the Philips CDI or the 3DO.
I'm often reminded of Wing Commander 3 when watching season 4.
I keep expecting like a cartoon chef to appear and go,
"My cakes will burn!"
Maybe a mouse pointer appears and turns to a pair of chattering teeth when something scary is going to happen.
Hey, shall I tell him I've found some gold back there in the forest?
Yeah. Tell him that there's
Say,
gold.
let us pass and we'll tell you where there's gold.
Rather than give up any of their objects, the team decide to tell Fatilla where he can find gold. Fatilla's not really keen on going into the forest and is more interested in what Alastair is carrying.
Fatilla does seem strangely eloquent here, rather more so than in other scenes. He's even inflecting his language correctly.
He sounds like me when I'm drunk, and I'm trying to sound not drunk.
Why should I go into the forest for treasure when you got treasure in your little sweaty hands?
Alastair offers him some aniseeds, and Fatilla remarks that they look like sheep's droppings. When he tries one, he spits it out, lamenting that they don't taste as nice as sheep's droppings.
I'm pretty sure that was an ad-lib, by the way.
I think it was, yeah.
A very good one.
At this point, advisor Harry has a brainwave.
Say I have nothing that is worthy of your great presence.
I have nothing that is worthy of your great presence.
Oh, that's very kind of you to say so. You sure you've got absolutely nothing? I'm very reasonable.
So tell him he's too brilliant to accept any of your
humble gifts. Humble gifts, yeah. You're too high in power to accept any of my measly little gifts.
Well, yes, that is true. I am one of the most magnificent people alive at this time.
Say, of course, agree with him. Of course you are.
Harry does really seem to be the only one of the advisors that's properly switched on.
He had a choice between the gold and he's carrying a key at the moment. Feels like the design would have been to pick up the gold. So this could potentially have been a immediate losing scenario here. But I respect the fact that they're attempting a bit of a role play blag, and I think they let them pass because they're actually made for a good little scene.
Yeah, I mean, call me old Mr. Party Pooper, but it does feel a bit forced to me. I like Fatilla's backhander and wiggling fingers pose that he does quite a lot. But where did this sort of Donald Trump-like ego weakness Fatilla come from? I've never really noticed that in any other scene, that you can just butter him up that easily. If you can beat him as easily as just saying something slightly nice about him,
it's very much a blag, but
it's blagging the audience rather than actually blagging the character.
It feels like a Gumboil scene to me.
Yeah, a little bit. Although it should be said, said, that Fatilla is no less of a comic relief figure than Gumboil, so in some ways that's not a problem. I just don't think Fatilla is being characterized correctly in this scene.
Oh, no, and there was definitely an argument to be made for that, but unlike any variation on the pick up item, give item to person kind of thing, when it raises head at Nightmare, it's always quite interesting.
It's pretty basic gameplay, isn't it?
Yeah, it's that kind of out of the box thinking that production should be awarding the team for doing. Here's one of the things that I find as at times kill Nightmare as momentum is when the Dungeoneers are just basically one word in it. Right?
What's your name, Dungeoneer?
What shall I say?
Yeah, that sort of thing. Yeah, it doesn't help the series when they do that, does it?
Which is why I hold Barry's from season 7 as the definitive Dungeoneer, but that's hardly a controversial position, despite what the internet may say.
I haven't met such an intelligent lad in a long time. Well, look, go on, be off with you.
Alastair,
Go on, get out of it before I
Alastair.
forget my
No,
juice.
Turn a little to your left.
Right, now walk forward.
So anyway, the team are all talking over each other once again as they guide him down the path with Fatilla ego inflated, sending him on his way. We get another ice shield sequence.
One of the things that the ice shield sequences is designed to do is to make the world feel bigger. That works in a way.
Yes.
It works so that the visuals are covering much bigger areas, but at the same time, they're also making the world seem smaller in that there's only one pathway through it, which means you get absolutely no exposure to the rest of the environment. Plus, it also makes it less interactive. I think we all understand what they were trying to do with the ice shield, and I think we can respect the attempt.
It would take later seasons for it to be refined.
I don't think they ever got it quite right, if I'm being perfectly honest. It was interfering way too much in this season.
The best use of the ice shield, in my opinion, was in the later seasons when they could cast a spell, meaning the Dungeoneer could actually see. And they actually used screens inside the helmet in a sort of early virtual reality.
They were actually feeding live CGI into the helmet and using the ice shield to give the impression that that's where it's coming from, which is fine.
Precursor to Oculus and all that stuff.
One problem with it was because it was CGI, it was a bit slow. They never got it spot on, I don't think.
Carry on walking.
Goblins hunting and they have your scent. You're doomed unless you can throw them off.
Put the aniseed down. Put the aniseed down. Put the aniseed down. Throw them down and then carry on walking.
Again, all talking at once, the team tell Alastair to throw the aniseed down. This does the trick, and Alastair enters the Fortress of Doom.
They've got to get organised, this team. Especially they've got to arrange for a chief instruction giver. In level 2, with this degree of disorganisation, they are going to get flattened. It's just watching them.
Alastair, you're in a room, and it appears to have some sort of well in the middle or something. To the back of their 2 sets of steps.
They look
Come on, team. The wellway's here, and level 2 beckons.
Wait, Master. There's something else here, too.
Pickle, this is no time to get fanciful. I told you.
Please, Master, this is no fancy. There's something else here. It's not a goblin, and it's not spellbound. So since we can't see it, and it's human, it must be
an assassin. Precisely. Stay exactly where you are, Alastair. The rest of you must spot the assassin first. They're cautious and extremely cowardly and won't strike if there's any sign of resistance. The trouble is, they're masters of camouflage.
There is a short pause while the team keep a lookout for the assassin. He faintly appears sitting by the well, holding a dagger. Advisor Martin seems to notice him first and points out his position. On Pickle's instruction, Alastair shouts at it to
Go away! Be gone with you, Be gone, assassin!
Louder.
Louder, Alastair!
Go away!
Excellent. Well done, Alastair. Okay,
Right, to your right, Alastair.
Left. Should we go down the well? Okay, go straight forward.
Alastair, go straight forward. Can you see
the well steps? Yeah. Okay, up onto the steps and climb into the well.
He's not far.
Alastair, hurry!
Once again, the advisors talk over each other to say exactly the same thing.
Their voices have been multiplied in this to make it sound even more chaotic.
Definitely. That's one of the things that's wrong with this scene, and there's a lot that's wrong with this scene. It's too early in the castle for the Wellway. They've literally just entered the castle here. There should be another chamber or two with some floor puzzles or something. Secondly, the begone assassin line is just ridiculous. It suggests the team are taking the game too seriously. I like it when a team gets immersed, first so that it feels real. But when you actually start talking like you're living in the 13th century and you are literally a chevalier, no. At that point, you are becoming a football fan in Nightmare. Don't do it. Don't do it. Thirdly, if just shouting at an assassin can make it run away like that, then any danger it poses just immediately evaporates like that.
There's nerfing a character type and then they're shouting at it very loudly.
Yes, exactly. Have a catacomb bite in the chamber or something. Make it a mobile catacomb bite that can advance towards you and you've got to race to the wellway or something like that. Just having somebody sitting there and then running away because you shouted at it. Oh, please.
Someone whose profession is, literally murder.
It may not be a brave thing, murder, but it does take a certain amount of nerve.
Just use goblins. We know the goblins are looking for them at the moment.
Yeah, literally anything. Maybe have a ghost haunting.
I wonder if they were slightly probably limited by, standards and practices or whatnot with that one, because they needed a character type that could be invisible. But, if you let an assassin sort of run amok, as it were, with them.
You are much, much too generous, Mr. Marshall.
I know.
Where am I? Alastair?
Yeah?
You, it looks like when you came down the railway, you landed on a table. There's an orange on the table, I think. Is it an orange?
Yeah. A sword has just fell down from the table.
Could you pick up the orange? Because it looks like food.
There appears to be a lady in some kind of lock thing. A stock.
A what?
A stock.
Right.
And she has her hands
and head
fixed
which is
into
kind
the
of
stock.
waving to it's not a stock, it's one of the ones that's up high.
So our team have arrived in level 2. God knows how.
I really like the transition with the actual jumping onto the table. It reminds me of what I liked a lot about season 3. If they were sidestepping out of a room, in the next room, they'll walk into it as though it had carried on. I feel like, the actual dropping of the sword onto the floor as well. I felt that just sold out a little bit more.
They're in the 5-window chamber, and we find Gundrada has got herself captured again and calls out to Alastair for help.
I say, you over there! You're just going to stand there and watch me suffer?
Well, I can't say I like the look of her, Master. She's very big for a maiden, with very large muscles.
Yes. Now listen, team, you seem to have this young lady at a disadvantage. It might be as well to bargain from that.
Wait a minute. Look, I'll have you know these things are jolly uncomfortable. Just get me out of here, will you? We can discuss anything else once I'm free.
It's another repetition issue for season 4. Gundrada is almost always getting caught in the stocks or the pillory. Oh, and an orange in the dungeon. It's a temperate zone! How many times?
I do not care for Gundrada, which is terrible because on paper she should be one of my favourites, characters. But no, she just comes off as Red Sonja, written by P.G. Woodhouse.
See, I do care for Gundrada, but probably for different reasons.
By night, I should, big, strong, bustly, sword-wielding, head-chopping ones. It certainly moves it as one of my favourite character archetypes. But there's just something about the big Miranda Richardson energy that just does not... It's not clicking for me.
The team are very wary of freeing her because they think it's a trap. Irritatingly, Treguard and Pickle now start acting like they've never encountered Gundrada before, even though in series time they encountered her about half an hour ago. That's one of the most irritating things in the series, and it's especially bad in season 4.
I assume those kind of lines are sort of like left over from the, if the Dungeoneer from the previous team hadn't met her yet, but even then I feel that, they should have... The script should have, acknowledged that fact in a way.
They ask her what she'll do for them if they let her out, and she replies that she's very good with a sword and she can protect them from aggressors. She's obviously not that good because she got captured.
Well, yeah.
Alastair behaves in a rather sexist manner here, doesn't he?
Maidens shouldn't fight with swords.
Yes, but I'm a big, strong maiden with huge muscles. I've always been like that,
I'm finding him increasingly difficult to like.
I feel like my emotional investment in his success kind of like immediately fell off a cliff at this point.
He doesn't seem to care what anybody thinks of him. That's the nicest way I can put it.
I think her answer is the only answer she can possibly give. Them. Yes, I'm a big, strong maiden with big muscles.
I don't think he's ever really convinced that it's a good idea to let her out.
No, he's all for leaving her in the stocks, isn't he? And he outright says...
This is very cruel. The team actually have to overrule him.
The previous team, they had a little bit of it took them far too long to get Merlin out as
Yeah.
well. So that whole kind of like spiel about compassion is not worth the thing. It's like it kind of
There's nothing to do with compassion, guys. That was pure self-interest. So when Gundrada says,
I expect you're wondering how I was trapped in those things without a fight.
I'm half expecting Alastair to say, no, not really. Gundrada tells Alastair that for as long as their paths are intertwined, she will protect him and then leads him out of the room.
Let's go. Right, round this way. Jolly good. Thanks. This way. Oh, forward. You're rather small, aren't you? And that small boys make me feel strong.
And we're back on a passive path, Mr. H.
Some of the ad-libbing here is quite entertaining.
Up to a point. It depends on the dungeon character, I think. But Samantha Perkins is pretty good at this. I think there's an editing blunder on this one, though, because at the start, the eye shield is showing a real close-up view of the portal, then suddenly seems to move a few steps backwards, hangs around on the spot for a moment, and then moves back to the door.
I thought that was an artifact of challenge inserting a commercial break there, maybe.
No, it's a blunder. I remember it was there on the original broadcast.
I will take your word for that.
Round here. Oh, jolly good. Round here.
Ah, greetings. Those with goods to declare, sit here. Those with nothing to declare, wait over there. One will deal with all in good time.
So they wind up on another conveyor corridor, or just outside the conveyor corridor, I should say, at the entrance. And we have Hordris. I am not quite sure what this scene is meant to be about. It seems like Hordris has invented some kind of customs scam operating from this chamber. Hordris is the one who doled out the eye shield to Team 1, so how he doesn't know whether the eye shield is elvish or not is another one of those mysteries, a bit like Traegar not remembering Gundrada.
I think it's just one of those things that Hordris does.
Could be. He does seem to be a bureaucrat, doesn't he?
So I'm just going to take a second and admire the sheer luxurious volume of his hair, because goddamn.
Now then, any potions, talismans, spells, horned spiders, bat's wings, or crushed toads in garlic?
No.
Good. Any elf products? One must say that shield looks distinctly elvish, is it?
I'm not sure.
You're not sure?
No, it's not.
No, it's not, Alice. No, it's not elvish.
Good.
Hordris, despite being a bit wary of Alastair, gives him the benefit of the doubt, and then approaches Gundrada, and again shows distinct memory loss.
One senses a certain familiarity. Did not one recently place you in the stocks for extreme rudeness and hostility?
Oh, me?
Yes, you.
God, I should think not. Must have been someone who, looked like me, yes, that's it.
One is so profoundly relieved. A further encounter with such a person would result in terminal solutions, you understand?
Oh, yes, I should think so.
Yeah.
No, Hordris, you did not place Gundrada in the stocks. You placed her in the pillory. So it's not just Nightmare fans who make that blunder. The characters do it too. And again, Hordris gives Gundrada the benefit of the doubt. This is one of the problems of Hordris as a character, is that having started out as a rather wise but sinister figure in season 3, as the years pass, he gets progressively more and more stupid.
I just chose to perceive it as that he doesn't actually care.
Yeah, I like to look at it that way. Then at the end, he does still threaten Gundrada with complete elimination, so he does care a bit.
I feel like he's at his best when he has that slight sort of like sinister moral ambiguity. By the the end of the show, when he was getting captured every other quest, he feels defanged a little bit.
Anyway, Hordris appears to have established that neither Alastair nor Gundrada possess any contraband. So, Hordris lets them pass with the offer of a spell each. He grants Gundrada the charm Adore, and unto Alastair he imbues Slow. As with last time, he explains that these are self-activating, so no need for spell casting. Even more interaction with the gameplay switched off.
Well, it's probably a good thing for this team, isn't it?
Probably. Hordris wishes them well, and they both venture into the conveyor corridor. Should just mention, probably wouldn't be allowed if it was made today moment, when Gundrada says she's a maiden and Hordris says that comes as no surprise. Note that the status scroll says the quest has lasted 30 minutes so far, and we are only 2 rooms into level 2.
But there's also the fact that we know the status scroll is wildly inaccurate.
I suppose it is. It might well be less than 30 minutes.
One wishes you good speed.
The going's good.
Alastair?
Yeah?
You're walking along a corridor. There seems to be doors passing on either side. And it looks like you're on a conveyor belt that's
Just
going
moving along, yeah.
You are, in fact.
Have you ever had a sword, Alastair?
No.
I had a broadsword as a child. It was great.
It's a plus the conveyor is on level 2 and not in the same place on level 1 as in the first quest to vary things up a bit. But even so, this is still extremely difficult to distinguish from Helen's adventure so far.
We haven't had sequences where ice shield footage has been reused, have we?
I think there will be a little bit. There's some stuff in the level 2. What passes for the level 2 clue room will be a bit when they're heading towards the door from that.
Oh, wow, look at that. Great gold. I think I should have it. What do you think? Well, come on, speak up.
Okay.
You're going to let me have it?
No,
I think I'll
Alistair,
wait.
Alistair, don't. Say, you let her out of the stocks. I think you should take payment now.
You let me out, I'll let you out of the stock, so this shall be my payment.
Oh. All right, then.
That's all right with you.
Another of Alistair's failings is he doesn't seem to think before speaking. Just letting Gundrada take the gold would have been sure to put him in losing status straight away. And I can't understand why he does it, because he was the one being really standoffish with Gundrada before. Why does he suddenly want to be generous to her?
I got the impression he wasn't really listening.
Yeah, he's certainly not thinking. He's probably not listening either.
Suppose that's fair.
Good. Let's be having your loot then.
Golly, come back home. Stay there, Alastair.
Oh.
I definitely saw him first.
Oh, you want to fight, do you?
Yes, I do.
Oh.
And then Fatilla bursts in, just to make things seem even more stupid.
I bet Fatilla had fun getting past Hordris.
I wonder what the conversation would have been like.
I don't know if he gave him a spell.
This is the moment Gundrada's been waiting for, and she engages the barbarian in combat. Or so she thinks.
I'm very good with this.
There's magic abroad here, team.
There's a flashing sort of rippling light.
A
what? A rippling, flashing light that's moving around the room behind the guard.
I think it may be the door spell. I can't hear you. Someone speak at once.
Jolly well, stand up and fight like a monster, why don't you?
What is it?
Me.
Just give me instructions.
Oh, it's no good, Alastair. He's spellbound. Quick, let's get out of here. Turn round. Quick, walk forward. Oh my God, he's disgusting!
Before she can attack, her self-activating a door spell kicks in.
Her Amiga mouse pointer activating a door spell kicks in.
Yes.
Because you can clearly see the mouse pointer here.
Yeah.
That is painfully conspicuous, isn't it?
It's a joke, isn't it? The magic is symbolized on screen by a sort of static effect over Fatilla. But as you say, the Amiga mouse pointer is so visible.
Not the first time it's happened as well.
That's true.
Not the first time, but probably the most obvious.
I would say so, yeah. The spellbind guard suddenly falls hopelessly in love with the sword maiden. He falls to his knees, throwing his club behind him, making it bounce with the sound of plastic impacting on a hard surface.
It always reminds me of Garth Marenghi's Dark Place, where he throws the fire extinguisher and it's clearly inflatable.
From a production standpoint, this is the most awful scene in Nightmare history. And it's also embarrassingly written and very carelessly performed. See, the mouse pointer, as you say, screams 1980s computer used in 1990. And the noise of the plastic club landing on the floor screams Pertwee Doctor Who. And then Gundrada tells Fatilla to stand up and fight like a monster while Fatilla is stood up. And then he drops to his knees. What is that? What? Get this crap out of my nightmare, will you?
It was all round, this one. It was a little bit cringe, wasn't it?
And then it carries on into the next scene as well.
It looks like she's guiding you.
Oh, no, not you again.
I love you.
Where am I?
Alice, no. You're in the courtyard. There seems to be a set of steps leading up to the door.
Oh, it's no good, Alice. So even if
and there's a guard on the floor that's saying he loves Gundrada.
Come and live with me. Be my missus. Sir, my jerk. Sir, my...
But white lights appeared above you.
Oh dear. Gundrada's presence, or that of her barbarian devotee, have obviously become a hazard to your quest. That's why the slow spell is self-activated. Time, I think, to abandon this devoted couple.
So they arrive in an empty chamber, which is basically the same as the previous one, but with some editing done to it. Gundrada enters the chamber first, with Fatilla arriving on his knees via what appears to be a doorway a few meters to the left. And then Alastair follows a moment later. But hang on, Alastair was ahead of Gundrada. Gundrada was sort of marching him out with her hands on his shoulders. Alastair should have arrived first.
Yeah, but Alastair had to do all that ice shield stuff. Gundrada didn't.
And how did Fatilla manage to overtake Alastair between rooms?
On his knees.
I'm fairly sure the bit between Gundrada and Fatilla, it was filmed earlier and then superimposed on Alastair's arrival. That's how their footage is able to slow down without having to put Alastair into slow motion at the same time. So they're not literally there. That's why Alastair is separate, so that he doesn't sort of cross over into their part.
It's done to explain why he doesn't interact with either of them. That's what it is, I think.
But it totally mucks up the continuity from the previous chamber. These two chambers, they're a total mess. It's not good. It is not good at all.
Yes, and downside of the self-activation spell, again, as you say, it robs them of player autonomy.
Yeah, it takes away the interactivity as well. There really is nothing to redeem these scenes at all.
Sort of a general push I've noticed from these onwards, moving away from the interactive gameplay element to trying to get more scripted drama / comedy sequences into it, and it's like the beginnings of the idea there, but they haven't really sort of refined it.
No, they haven't got it anywhere near right yet at this point.
Which you can basically surmise as season 4 in a nutshell. Is the beginnings of all the elements are there, it's just not quite mixed up just right.
It's inexperience at this point.
Season 4 is in several ways an even more experimental series than series 1.
Yeah.
And some of it works. There is a lot to like in series 4.
It does, and I do sometimes think series 4 does get, unfairly aligned. Not that anything can, you really get to redeem the ending.
Magic effect appears again, this time over Alastair's head and without a mouse pointer, and both Gundrada and Fatilla slow down to a crawl. So Alastair leaves the lovebirds behind and ventures onward. Thank God that's over with.
According to a set of steps. Can you see the steps yet?
Outside to your right. Alastair, you're in a room. To the left of you, there's a table with a wizard sitting by it. And they're directly in front of you.
Supply equipment and supplies. Only the best when you're on a quest.
In the next scene, we've got Merlin sitting behind a table. God, this is dramatic stuff. We're roughly at the halfway point of the dungeon now. Merlin's sitting there, but bong.
Time, Master, time!
Well, what do you mean?
Time is now the enemy, Master. A phase shift is upon us.
Oh, so it is. I do wish you'd be a bit more timely with these warnings, Pickle. Otherwise, there's very little point in giving them.
Are you going to tell them it's time to go, Master?
No, I don't have to. It happens automatically.
Forgive him. Elves don't have advertising breaks. As for you, I suppose you're wondering if Harry and Chums will make it to level 3. Well, there's only one way to find out, isn't there?
Traeger mentioned something about TV adverts.
I'm really not sure how I feel about that.
I'll tell you this, in one of the books, he's completely aware of computers and virtual reality.
Oh, God.
So I say give it a pass.
Wasn't there a comic where he became a driving instructor?
Yes, I think there was. This is slow stuff, and a lot of it is not really up to scratch at all.
No.
So the spell that Hogg just gave to Alastair seems fair enough. What's not fair is that the running order of locations is too similar to the first quest, so you might just as well skip over the first 2 levels here and start watching from the start of level 3. Assuming they get that far, spoiler alert. But this team are much more irritating than the first. The first team were a bit shy and a bit stiff, but these ones, they just can't sit still. That should make them a fun team to watch, but it leaves them so disorganized that they get in each other's way all the time. They're plainly not stupid, but they just keep dropping below their real intelligence level, and they haven't got the discipline to stop talking over each other. As I mentioned earlier, Alastair seems really quite a ratty Dungeoneer, and fairly or otherwise, he does come across as one of the most difficult Dungeoneers to like so far.
He's not the moodiest Dungeoneer we get, but he's close.
There are moodier ones, yeah, but just in terms of sheer rattiness.
He's in the top 3.
He's in the top 1. You've got a bunch of squabbling football hooligans sat down in the antechamber, and you've got an irritable early years Captain Picard figure as the Dungeoneer. So you don't really want them to win, is the honest truth.
I would say, given the choice between rattiness or, monosyllabic not engaging at all, I will hold up my hands and take the rattiness. I might not specifically be on board with the cut of his jibber jabber, but at least, there is jibber jabber.
Anyway, you can follow us on Twitter. We're at Nightmare Pod.
If you want to support the podcast, we're Nightmare Pod on Patreon.
Speaking of Patreon, here's a shout out to keepers of the Book of Quests, David N. Rabbit, Paul McIntosh, Peter Polsfield, and Scott Evans, with advisors Benjamin Bloom, David Thompson, Peter Sidorn, and Stephen Whelan, and Dungeoneer Peter Courage.
Support us on Patreon at Dungeoneer level or above to get your name mentioned on the podcast. Higher level perks also receive merchandise, have access to exclusive episodes, and if you pledge as a keeper of the Book of Quests, we'll even offer you a chance to be a guest on the podcast, like the wonderful experience Andy has had today.
Our website is nightmarepod.co.uk.
If you're looking for Temple Discussion merchandise, including t-shirts, stickers, and other products, it's at nightmarepod.redbubble.com.
You can email us at podcast@nightmarepod.co.uk.
And just keep telling yourself,
it's only a podcast.
Isn't it? I thought I'd do the Soundwave voice for this one.
Who are you and where can I find your doom metal album?
This is just not really thinking through what you're doing when you're creating a monster. If you're creating a monster that can be scared off by a shout,
yes,
you haven't got a monster. You've got a coward.
This is true. That's I cannot disagree with you on.
Well, there should have. I mean, there should have been a different clue object in Oakley's Glen to fight the assassin off. If you're going to have an assassin, make it a bit tougher, make it a bit sturdier, and then have an clue object that can be used for fighting it off. The key in there is obviously useless. What they could have done was take whatever the other object was, and the gold. Take the gold, use the gold from Fatilla, and use the aniseed as something to fight off the assassin. Say that the assassin is actually really dangerous, it can't be scared off, but it's allergic to aniseed. That still is a little bit undignified, but it's better than just running away just because it's being shouted at.
It's absurd, but there's a certain logic there.
Yes, that's got to be better.
Slightly better than that, but it wouldn't be out of place in one of the more unfair Sierra games.
Yeah. And then, as you mentioned, we got the echo and the loop voices into the soundtrack. It's just the opposite effect of the one that's intended. It's intended to increase the sense of panic and danger, but actually, it just distracts you from the danger, such as it is, because it's becoming very distorted. I swear, at one point, I can hear in the mix a recording of Alastair complaining yet again that he can't hear. You can't hear that. It's ill-advised, I think is the best way to describe that scene.
Right.
It's an attempt to be scary, but
right. I've just drunk an entire pint, so I just need to make a quick pit stop.
Right, sir.
This is the point where Martin usually says all the embarrassing stuff about me.
Is this another reference to the Tom Cruise film when you mentioned the pit stop?
Yes, entirely. I thought that out way in advance.
Yep.
So
Retroactive.
on one occasion, Mr. Marshall, on one occasion, he came in dressed in a bra and panties, and said, "Oh, I thought this was the guy's going to mute."
Oh. Oh, exceptional, wonderful stuff.
Yeah. And then he said, "Oh damn! I thought Jackie Soiris was going to be the guest this week. It's here again." Apparently, he watched Eyes Wide Shut, and he took it completely literally. So that was literally what Jackie Soiris does in her spare time. Wishful thinking, I fear.
Took notes clearly.
Yes, absolutely. Grand old perverse, Mr. H.
This has been well documented.
Yes, especially on this program.
Yes, no, I do need to. So I've listened to a few episodes now, but it is one of those things I do need to. Quite dreadful in my podcast habits. I do need to catch up on it. So I've been. I was dreadfully distracted by the Magnus archives for the longest possible time. It's I'm on a quest to get my partner Katie into liking horror and sort of whatnot, since she's quite specific as to what she likes. Got her into Inside Number 9, so that covers a lot of bases. But no, I managed to get into the Magnus archives, Rusty Quill's sort of anthology horror one, which highly recommended, by the way. If you're jonesing for fun horror type stuff, but they branched out into a whole bunch of other stuff. Stella Firma is the one I'm drifting off to. It's essentially Magraphia, the comedy improv show.
That's rather a lot to take in at once, but
yeah,
I can listen to the recording afterwards to go through it.
Yeah, no, that highly recommended.
Okay, is your bra back in position, Mr. H?
My bra is back in position.
Right, you heard it there. He did not deny it. He confirmed it. Everybody, no. It's there. Even if he doesn't upload this, I will upload it to YouTube myself. He has admitted it. Right,
this is one of your highest Patreon tiers, no doubt.
It gets the bra that Martin Harder wore on Temporal Discussion in exchange for £35,000.
Yeah, well, autographed, I hope.
The queue extends all the way back to the front of the queue.
I actually own a pair of autographed Tommy Wiseau boxers.
Well, that's an even more embarrassing. I admire your courage for admitting it.
I actually need genuine help reacting to that fact.
Yes. So our team have arrived in level 2. God knows how.